Okay. Good evening, everyone. How are you guys doing?
We're good. Good evening,
Great.
Chiomah.
Awesome. A few people have joined in. Do we wait a few minutes to start or we just go straight away?
I think we should keep to time.
Awesome. Let's do that. So we're going to keep to time. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us as we share parenting lessons for 2020. My name is Chiomah, and we have some other panelists who are already here. We have Megor, popularly known as Dr. Megor because she is a doctor. And then we have Kristin, who is a grandma, who's our grandma in the house. And then we just thought it would be nice to speak about the lessons we've learned in 2020 relating to parenting specifically, because we have learned a lot of stuff, okay? It's been a very interesting year. Been very interesting. Nobody could have predicted it. Nobody could have made any projections that would have prepared them for 2020. But we've come to almost to the end of it. By the grace of God, God has been faithful. He has seen us through. And the year is almost coming to an end. And we just thought, why don't we just talk to you guys? Let's talk, and there'll be a time for questions at the end of this session. Just stay put. We'll try and finish for 7 p.m. sharp, so you can ask your questions to the panelists. The other panelists who are not yet here, we have Tara, and then we have Kristin, and then we have Tara, we have Fela. Sorry, Kristin is here already, and my humble self. So we're just, like I said, it's just a session for us to just talk and to share and to just say, what have we learned this year? What has worked for us? What do we need to do differently going forward as parents? Because like Megor shared with me last week, actually, it wasn't somebody, it was Megor. Parenting is not a distraction. It doesn't distract us from other work. It is the greatest work we can do, full stop. Once you have the privilege and the blessing to be a parent, whether by adoption, whether you give birth to children, whether you're a guardian over some children, once God gives you that role to parent individual, it is a very, very high calling and it should be taken seriously. And we're not playing around with it at all. And we know you're not too, which is why you logged in this evening to join us as we have this discussion, okay? So our panelists are all going to come in a second, but the people who are here already, like I said, I've introduced them to you. I will still introduce them before they speak for brief second, but I just want to give you an overview of the kind of people who are speaking to us today. And I'm going to start with Megor. Megor, like I said, she's a medical doctor, very accomplished medical doctor. She, in fact, if I read this babe CV for you, you guys, on a serious note, as in, if I have Megor's qualification, this is how I'll be working. My head will just be, my head will be deceiving. My head will be deceiving. I'll be floating. Where's my? I'll be floating. I'll be floating for real as they're walking on the cloud. Megor is a very accomplished medical doctor. I want to just quickly read her. In a minute, I'll just read out her CV just so you can know a bit about her. She's also written this book, which I think everybody should get. It's called 1111. It's available. I'm going to send you all a link at the end of this, via email, so you can order her book. She has the most amazing husband, the most beautiful children, and they've been able to build a very beautiful marriage by the grace of God. And she shares her tips in that book on how you can have a successful marriage and raise your children in a beautiful home. So Megor is the wife to her partner in purpose and mother to 3 amazing children. She's a medical doctor. She's an early childhood and care development specialist, and she's a family life strategist. She has been involved in healthcare and community development initiatives for over a decade. She's the founder and executive director of Lead Oak Women and Children Foundation. She's the co-founder of CECD Africa and the brain behind the Dr. Megor Global Company. She's a recipient of several awards, including and she's a Mandela Washington Fellow. And she was recently selected to be one of the 20 young female leaders in Nigeria by the Swedish Embassy in Nigeria. I told you she's really accomplished. And she's passionate about living a fruitful life, fruitful marriage, and fruitful family life. So she offers consulting services to people who need help in those areas, who need her support. Alongside her husband, she offers marriage counseling for couples, as well as training workshops for parents and child caregivers. Welcome, Megor. It's so good to always do stuff with you. You're amazing. Your passion is amazing. Your professionalism is amazing, and it's very, very encouraging. And I just pray that God continues to bless you, bless your ministry in the mighty name of Jesus. So that's Meg. And then I'll just introduce Kristin to you quickly. Kristin, like I said, she's our grandma in the house. She's been very supportive. You know, when we met on Instagram, which is a great place to meet amazing people. And anything, we always, you know, rub ideas back and forth. She talks about stuff we do. I ask her questions. She's always extra and ultra helpful. And she has 4 adult children. She's a grandma, like I said. She has a master's in elementary education. She's very good in handling younger children. During her years as a parent, Kristin, you're still a parent. During her years as a parent to younger children, she and her husband created notes and plans that they used on their journey as parents. And it became a very valuable parenting tool, a parenting plan. And I have her book here. I'm going to just show it to you because it's really helped me. Kristin's passion is to inspire others to find, plan, and embrace their own unique way of parenting. And she's the author of Noteworthy Parenting. So that's her book, which I have here. It's really good. And it's something I have used personally and I'm still using to create a parenting plan for my own parenting journey. And then we have FLS, who is not here yet, but he will join us soon. Maybe I'll do his own intro just before he goes on, because we want to keep to time. I'm going to talk first of all. So everyone that is here, thank you for being here. You're going to have the honor of listening in. I'm going to go first and just say the lessons I've learned. I've learned quite a bit as a parent. Parenting is a journey that never really ends. It's something like I was just teasing Kristin right now, because even when they grow, you still have even though they grow and you let go, you still have a role to play in their lives. For instance, I'm here. My 6-year-old is here with me. He's drawing. He's more the age he is at now. He wants to talk to me more. He wants to spend more time with me. The older ones are not as attached, but still, I still have a lot to do with them. You know, they still need me. So I still have a lot to do. So parenting never ends. You know, my children are ages 17 to 6, 17, 15, 13, and 6. And one major lesson I have learned this year, my son just corrected me, she's 12, she'll be 13 next week, which is almost 13. So one major thing I've learned this year about parenting is parenting needs consistency. Parenting needs consistency. You might just be tired. You might be thinking, I'm trying this with my children. I'm doing these chores. I'm doing this and that. I'm doing all sorts of things, and it just doesn't seem to be working. What do I do? You get tired. You're like, oh, I tried. I told them to do this. They didn't do it. I told them to wash the plate. They didn't wash it. It's not a one effort. It's not a one-time effort. It's not a two-time effort. It's not a three-time effort. It's not a four-time effort. You need to be consistent. When children know you're going to give them a breather, they will take it. That's the honest truth. So anything, any habits, any things you're trying to make your children do, you need to be consistent at it. If you want your children to develop certain habits, making their beds, cleaning their rooms, you have to consistently tell them every day until it becomes part of them. You can't just say, oh, one off. You can't just draw a chart and say, oh, I have a nice chart. Make your bed in the morning and just tell them once and expect that from then on, their beds will be made every day. No, ma'am, that's not how it works. You have to be consistent. Children look at you and they learn from you. They want to see all the cues you are giving them. And one of those major cues is being consistent. I'll give you another example to illustrate what I'm trying to say. For instance, I had a rule in my house. I still have that rule, but you cannot go out of the house, even if it's within the estate. Even my 17-year-old without telling me, you must tell me or tell another adult in the house. And it was a standing rule. But there were 1 or 2 times that my son would go out and he wouldn't tell anybody, and I would let it fly. I wasn't being consistent about making sure he did it. So there was a 3rd time he did it also, and I was like, what happened? Where did you go? Who did you tell? And I was like, Mommy, but the last time I did it, you didn't seem to have a problem with it. Do you see what I'm saying? I wasn't being consistent with insisting that he runs it by me. So he just felt, oh, maybe she's not that serious about it. Maybe she doesn't really care. Maybe she's just saying it. We need to be consistent with discipline, we need to be consistent with rules, we need to be consistent with our word. The things we are telling our children. That's one thing I learned this year, because you cannot expect magic. You cannot expect them to learn things overnight. Writing, just doing a fancy chart and saying, oh, these are your chores for the month is not enough. You must follow it through. Parenting is not for lazy people, okay? So one of those things that you need to do as a parent, that's what I've learned. At times I just feel, I've told them already. They're not babies, they know what to do. No, they do know what to do, but you need to follow it through. And as you follow it through, as you're consistent, they will understand why it needs to be done, and they will continue. So that even when you're not there, even when you're not reminding them, they are going to do it. So parents, please, let's not play with that consistency thing. It is something that we really, 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 really need to follow through, because the children are watching us and they're seeing us. And that takes me to the second thing I learned in 2020, which I've always known, but it was reiterated more in 2020. Children, it's all about what they see more than what they hear. You cannot say, do as I say, don't do as I do. Not for children in 2020. You cannot be doing the wrong things and expect them to do the right things just because you said so. They are watching you. And the greatest way to tell them to do something is by doing the right thing yourself, AKA modeling the right behavior. We are models to our children. They need to see what we're doing. They need to follow it through. They need to make sure that these things that we're seeing, we're not just paying lip service to it. How do they know we're not paying lip service? By making sure that we're doing the right things ourselves, because they are watching you. They are watching every single thing you do. So if you say one thing and you do the other, you're looking like a very unserious person who is very unstable. So as a parent, you cannot, gone are the days where your mom or dad will just say, I told you so. No, you told them to do something good. But what are you doing yourself? What behavior are you showing? I'll give you a classic example, is this device called the phone, the mobile phone. You know, a lot of us are addicted to our phones. And then we tell our children, please, don't be addicted to your phone. Don't use your phone too much. And then we are constantly on our devices. What messages are we sending? What message are we sending to them by this inconsistent behavior? So, you know, we're not being consistent, one, and then two, we're not modeling the right behavior. And you might say, oh, I'm working. Yes, you're working, but we know sometimes we are not working. We know we have some unhealthy habits. We need to make sure that we are putting our money where our mouth is. We need to make sure we're doing the right thing, and the children will see it and they will follow through. And another good example is the kind of food we eat. They see us eating unhealthily, eating all sorts of garbage, and then you're telling them to eat properly. If you have a child who's having issues with weight or it's not eating the right things, the easiest way to make that child drop the pounds is by you to also embarking on a lifestyle change and eating properly yourself. That's the easiest way. It works. It works. Rather than say, oh, you're obese, so it's only you that's going to be on a diet in the house. Really? And everybody else is eating all the right things? No. Everybody. So you need to make sure the behavior you display. I've learned that more than anything, that your children are watching you. They are watching you with keen eyes. Everything you say, how you behave, how you carry yourself, the lies you tell, the truths you tell, the way you treat other human beings. You know, there are things I've done, you know, and my children will tell me, Mommy, you really shouldn't have spoken like that. And I'm like, really, you know, you're teaching them to respect people, and you're talking down to maybe your driver or whoever. What are you teaching them? What value system are you, imparting on them? So we need to model the right behavior. It's the easiest way. The easiest way to make anyone do anything is by doing the right thing yourself. When they see you do it, it will be easier for them to say, okay, Mom, this is how my mother behaves. And so it goes across. But so if you grew up in a house where you're always shouting at your children, when I mean shout, I mean screaming at them. Don't be surprised to see siblings screaming at their younger siblings. It's what they've seen. It's what they've seen. Okay? So that's one lesson I've learned, if nothing else, is that, look, you have to model the right behavior, because honestly, it takes less time than talking. It's more effective. It's more long lasting. It makes a deeper impact on your child when they see that you are living your word out. You're not just saying it. Have you made your bed? Mom and dad, what do you do? Do you do any chores in the house? Is everything, do you give everything to everyone else to do? Yeah, I know you paid your dues. You're an adult, for goodness sake. You paid your dues, your pay, as in really, you did all that stuff when you were a child. I know. But there's some things I actually do because of my children. There's some habits I've actually said I'm going to take on, good habits, positive habits, because I want my children to also inculcate those same kind of positive habits. So let's ask ourselves these questions. How are you behaving? You say your child does not like to read. Do you read? Have you ever carried a book? Do you read the papers? Do you read your Bible or your Quran? What are you doing? Your child has never seen you read a book, but then you're surprised that your child does not want to read. Where would they learn it from? Yeah? So these are the things that we need to do as in practical things to do. And in 2021, I just told myself, you know what? I need to be a better role model. 2021 and going forward, be a better role model to my children. They should see me and want to be like me. So that when they ask me, who is your role model? They should be able to say, oh, Mrs. Chiomah Momah is my role model. She's hardworking, she's diligent, she keeps her word, she's even-tempered, she's well-behaved, diligent, she's everything. All those things that I want to see in my child, am I doing them well? Let's ask ourselves those questions. Don't just say, oh, because I'm an adult, I've not earned the rights to do whatever. Yes, you can sleep later than your children. Yes, you can sleep at other hours. Yes, you can do X, Y, Z. But are you inculcating healthy habits that your child can adopt? Are you? We need to ask ourselves these questions. My two top lessons for the year. 2, consistency. Consistency. You cannot be lazy. You might take you having to say it over and over again. Do not be tired. Do not say I'm going to stop saying it because I'm just until you see it performed. It can get tiring. Like, but this is why I say parenting is not just it's not a joke. In the past, when people said that they wanted to have only 1 or 2 children, I always wondered why 1 or 2 children. But now I understand. I'm happy I have 4. I've always wanted 4, and I'm grateful to God. I know God's going to give me the grace to raise those 4. But it is not easy. Not to make light of it. I'm not saying God will give us the grace, but it's something that requires work. It's something that requires diligence. It's something that requires study. It's something that requires applying yourself, which is why I'm glad you're here today for us to share what we have learned and for you to also share too, because like I said, at 7 we'll have a place to ask questions. What you have learned, even from your own childhood, you might not have your own children yet, but what have you learned from your own childhood that will help you or that can help other parents as their parents? So my 2 top lessons, 2020, we must be consistent in our behavior, consistent in trying to imbibe discipline in our children, consistent in our word. Keep your word. Keep your word. Be consistent with it. And we must model the right behavior. Children are looking, they are watching us. It's a lot of pressure, I know. It sounds like, can't I breathe? Yes, you can, but you just have to know that these children expect a lot from you. They are looking up to you. Okay, God has entrusted them in your care for a reason. He knows you can do it. If he didn't know you could, if he wasn't sure you would do it, he wouldn't have given you the job in the first place. So he knows that you are up to the task, okay? And he knows that you're not going to fail. That's why he gave you those beautiful children who are in your care. And like I said, it's only about your biological children. Any child under your care, you have to do this with them. Be patient. It could be the help in your house. You give her a rule once and then you're like, she doesn't hear. You've only told her once. Take time to teach her. Take time to draw a chart for her. Read her through, go through it with her, guide her. Show some consistency, a week or 2, and say, okay, this person has gotten it. Then you can now say, I've taught her this role or this, her duties in the home. The same way with our child. Don't get tired. Don't just say, oh, I've shown him once, he can't get it. No. God is going to help us as we're doing. It's not easy, but grace is there. In fact, it's easy. Let me speak the positive. It's easy by the God, because God's grace is more than sufficient for us. So those are my two top lessons of 2020. And in 2021, I'm going to make sure, like I said, I'm more consistent. I'm a better role model for my child. I don't get tired, but that consistency one really used to get to me because I'm the madam of getting, drawing timetables out and doing beautiful charts of how they should do this and how they should do that. And they do it for 1 week and the next week they're not doing it. I'm tired and I'm angry. And you know what? I just know that Chiomah, 1 week is not enough. You have to continue at it until it becomes something that I used to. Somewhere I read that you need to do something 100 times or for 100 days or something like that to make it a habit or even longer. So you have to be at it. And once the child gets used to that thing, it becomes part of them and you will not have to keep on saying it over and over and over again. So those are my top 2 lessons for 2020. I do hope you learned something from them. I hope you can relate, and I hope it will help you as you better parent in 2021. Thank you, people. Thank you very much. And without further ado, I'm going to go right to our next guest. I've already introduced her. Her name is Dr. Megor, and I'm going to spotlight her right now so you can see her. I've told you, what she does, all the amazing things she does. She's going to share her own lessons too with you guys. Write your questions down because I'm going to give you time to share them at the end of the session, okay? Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, big sis. I call Chiomah Momah my big sis. She's adopted me as her little sister. And it's really been an honor, working with her and learning from her and just, throwing lessons and learning from each other. So yeah, I have 3 lessons to share. And she has already touched on some of the things. So I think hopefully I'll be faster. And the first thing, that 2020 taught me was the huge difference, when it came to parenting, was the huge difference between abdicating and delegating. So those of us in Nigeria would understand it a lot. And she has already touched on some of those things where, for some of us, yes, you can afford help, and you can do so many things, but it needs to be clear what your help can do, right? It also needs to be clear what your church's role is, or Sunday school, for example, or your if you're a Muslim, for example, your Arabic school and all of that, what their role is for the child, and what your school, the school you put your child. So for us, we think I work very hard, I put in a very, very expensive school, that should do it, but no. And so how it all started for us in Nigeria. It was by February, or I think March this year, and then the lockdown. Let me not say the first lockdown. I'm not predicting a second one here, but yeah, the lockdown started, and all of a sudden you couldn't go to Sunday school, you couldn't go to school, and then your children were in your hands. Some of us had to let some of our helps go, especially those that used to go and come, just because you needed to be sure of everyone in your space. And it hits. I'm telling you, I know it hits me. It hits me, I won't lie. Like, I think this year tested my parenting principles and skills. It's very nice and, super sweet to say some of these things, right? But the tougher thing to do is to actually walk your talk, right? And so all of a sudden, I found out that some of the things I thought I had been delegating, I had actually been abdicating. And I just listed some of them. The first one is our spiritual responsibility, right? I know most of us here are people of faith. We might belong to different faiths, all right? But I'm a person of faith, I'm a Christian, and I believe that, we're not here by accident. I'm here for a purpose and all of that. I also believe that children are gifts from God, and they are given to us for just, it's not too long. Max, 20 years, max, and then your child leaves. So you have that time to literally program that child and equip that child to fulfill their own purpose in life, right? Many of us are broken today because, our parents, no matter how loving and everything they were human beings, they were broken people too, and just trying to do the best that they can. And so we find ourselves sometimes even repeating the same mistake. But one, our spiritual responsibilities, one of the things that I'm glad that this year gave us the opportunity to do was to take the spiritual responsibility of raising our children and teaching our children about God and, transferring our values to them. Oh, I'm so grateful for that. If that's one thing, I mean, for the first time I was, so first of all, with the whole COVID and everything, we took our family devotion times much more seriously. Now, I've been married for 11 years, and I think in all the time, I've been trying to get that kind of routine where we are having, that morning devotion every single day. But it didn't happen until from February this year. And for me, that is one of my successes in this year. And not just, but you are praying, you're leading your children in reading the Bible. They're asking you questions because you have older children now. I have a very inquisitive 8-year-old who asks me, how do I know that God is real, really? How do I know, And then we have the chance to have those discussions, and then you are primarily responsible now. I'm not saying, go and ask your teacher at Sunday school, or something like that. So that's number one. And I think that going forward, just like, Chiomah Momah gave me personally my top 2021 goal is that, for me to be very deliberate about being a better role model, for my children. So I would say you should have that as a goal, as well as being a spiritual role model, right? And teaching them. It's your responsibility first. It's not the responsibility of the church or the school. The next one is charting your child's learning path. So at some point in this whole season, I had to get a homeschool teacher to help with us, but I had to do the work of sitting down, deciding my children's ages, of course, and then finding out, like, I did a whole research, the different curricula available, because at some point I just decided to do my own thing, right? And then not just even academically, right? Even emotionally, where is my child? My child is at a phase or a developmental phase where the child needs to learn. The needs right now are the learning of self-regulation, right? And so if I need to teach this child, because remember, you are raising someone tomorrow who is going to have to be totally independent and responsible for their own lives, right? And so you want to make sure that you're putting in this child's toolbox the things that they will need to survive. You and I will agree that many of the things that were taught in school and not like they're totally useless. I mean, depending on what you studied, some people swear that everything they learned in school was useless to them in real life. However, the point is there's so many other much important, much more important things, like emotional intelligence, the ability to, like, social skills, how do you relate with other people? How are you a leader in a group? For example, how do you, so your child, I have children, all my children are strong-willed, right? And then sometimes they're really angry and then they feel okay. And I came from a family where when you were angry, I mean, we talk about some of these things in my book, 11:11, that Chiomah mentioned, that I wrote to my husband, because for me, the first time I had to start I couldn't run away from these things again, was when I got married. Where I come from, if you are angry, you cry, you shout, you break one or two things, for a tantrum, and then, you get on with it and everybody's fine later. But then I married someone who was the total opposite. So you can just imagine how the first few years of our marriage went, until I learned that it was possible to be upset and to actually have a proper logical conversation and to actually put your feelings aside, so to begin to have real self-control. And now I miss that class. Those are things I should have learned as, from being a toddler upwards. And so for me, that is very important. That's a very important skill that I think, so the whole learning pathway. So when I say learning, I'm not just talking about academic, I'm talking about emotional development, talking about social skills, I'm talking about all-round holistic development. You are responsible for that. And so you don't leave that. So even if you have a great school where they are heading doing that, which you please work with the school, right, to find out, where's my child? What does my child need? Okay, how can I do this better? And make yourself available for the child. Just like I wrote here that modeling is the way, but I think Chiomah has talked on that a lot. the final one under the abdication versus delegation. It's your responsibility to build confidence in your child. It's your primary responsibility, okay? Because you see, you cannot protect your child from the world. Things are going to happen. You cannot hope that, oh, everybody your child gets in contact with in the world is going to be nice and friendly. You and I know that that's wishful thinking, right? But you can make sure that you build the kind of resilience in your child that no matter where the child goes to, there's no touching it, right? Because in the first, especially if you still have young children, you have spent your time really filling their tank, like telling them who you are. Chiomah and I recorded a podcast talking about speaking life to your children. Speak what you want to see. Oh, that is one lesson that I'm glad that I learned early, and I do it. Like, I tell them who you are. I mean, we don't even let little things pass. Like, if you ask my child what is wrong with you, even when they're doing something, they'll stop and tell you nothing is wrong with me, right? First of all, nothing is wrong with me in a respectful manner, right? Yes, I did them to say, okay, say it in a respectful manner, but you must know. I mean, it must be there. So please, you are not the parents to be telling your child, like, what's wrong with you? Why are you always getting things wrong? Why are you always doing? I mean, and then this is even the nice things. I've heard parents say all sorts of, you are dull. Why you so, why, you know, I said, how? I mean, and sorry, in fact, this was how I wanted to start. I just remembered now. It's something I always share. It's the reason, it's the one phrase I can say drives me, you know, in my chosen path and everything I do. No child chooses where to be born. None of your children asked to be born, and they didn't ask to be born to you. I'm sure if they had the choice, you know, unfortunately, some of our kids will say, I'd rather, you know, go to this other household. And that's why Chiomah said, you know, parenting is not for lazy people. I know it's hard. Oh, this year has pulled me to my limits. Because my kids were, everything had to like take a back seat in a sense, right? But I keep reminding myself that they did not ask to be here, right? And I'm the parent, and they are not to blame for my issues and my brokenness and where I'm coming from, right? They are real, but that means I have to work on them very actively to become better for their sake. And then also be open and be vulnerable when I make mistakes and say, sorry, you know, mommy was wrong here. Mommy is struggling with this and all of that and all of what's, they must see you trying, and you must do your best to make sure that this child gets the best that they can in your home where God has sent them to. Many people want children and have to go through a lot to get them, or sometimes don't even end up getting them. And so we must put in the work. Parenting is not for lazy people. I mean, when Chiomah said that, that was like a double slap for me. Like, oh, wake up. You haven't even started. Right. So yeah, so that's it on abdication versus delegation. The next thing I want to talk about is something my husband says, the phrase he coined, which we also talk about in our book. He says, design precedes practice. Design precedes practice. And we just mean, for us, it's just about being intentional, right? And deliberate in how you craft what becomes your family. Don't just let it happen. What do you want? If I ask you, what do you want? What do you want for your life? What do you really want? What kind of family do you want? What kind of children do you want? What kind of individuals do you want your children to, you know, grow up to be? What kind of marriage do you want? See, a great marriage doesn't just happen. And just an aside, one of the greatest things you can also give to your children is the model, the example, the environment of a great marriage. I'm telling you, like, it's like seek ye first the kingdom of God, every other thing will be added to you. Like, you know, things just flow after that. So that's one of the things that you can give us. So that's why we have to, there's a lot of work to be done. But saying design precedes practice, you know, my husband and I, we have learned over the years to run our home the way we would run our business, right? And so we have what we call a family charter. And we often teach people how to design that, to sit down and say, I mean, for you, if I ask you, most of us for our businesses or for where we work, we know what our mission is, we know what our vision is, we know what our goals are, you know, we know what our core values are and stuff like that. But do you have core values for your family? If you call my 8-year-old and ask what are our core values in our family, we'll be able to give you at least 3 of them. And so it's something, it's not just, not only do we sit down, scripts, try to articulate them and all of that, we also now begin to drill it into our children, because we are saying, this is who you are. This is who you are. This is why you are here. At least we have a sense of why each child, you know, and that's why you should study your children and know why they're here and all of that. You begin to drill it into them from the get-go, because if you don't do it, the world will do it for you. And the world has all sorts of conflicting messages and all sorts of things to tell your children. Oh, this is who you are. Oh, no, you can't do that. Oh, no, you know, and all of that. So in this first, as a parent, you have that amazing opportunity to literally write on the blank canvas, in a sense, you know, and program your children to be able to, you know, just finish the world, you know, take it on and just create the kind of life that they deserve. And it's exciting when you think about it, and it's worth, you know, it's worth the effort. And so I encourage you to sit down. There's something, this was my husband's coining again, says, oh, when a ship at sea, you know, different things a ship will consider. Where am I going to? You know, where am I coming from? Speaks to your history. Where am I going to? Destination. How do I get there? You know, the course. And then as I'm getting there, how do I keep from sinking? How do I keep, you know, from being hit by an iceberg? All those things, mitigating the risk and stuff like that. So if you imagine that your family is a ship, you actually want to, you know, some of it, you know now for your business, you've done SWOT analysis, you've done all those things. But it will be great. Try it as the year is ending, to try to, even if it's just vision, mission, core values, and, you know, goals, objectives for the next year. And you can also try to do a SWOT analysis for your family. It will be interesting what you come up with, and then you begin to work, you know, with it. It gives more light. So finally, this was a big lesson for me. My very good friend is here. We share the same room in the university, and at some point they used to accuse me of having an OCD. Yeah. So, but so I like my environment really very arranged, really clean, really, and all of that. This year tested me. Tested me, because all of a sudden, just like I said, all the different changes, I had to change my living room upstairs to a classroom, and everything, and the kids are, you know, around all the time. And I learned that I should be flexible enough to recognize a change in my season and adapt to it. The people that survive and do not go extinct are those that can adapt to change, right? And I mean, I'm laughing because this thing really means, I mean, this one really made me pull out my hair. But yes, it's true. And so sometimes just take it easy. This year, I learned to look at the house looking a bit more scattered than it would normally look, and actually be okay with it. Focus on what was more important, you know, prioritize, and just still having my vision of, yes, how I want it to be and all of that. But in the meantime, being okay so that I can leave, you know, so that you just don't always feel like a failure, like you're not, you know how it can be parenting, especially, you know, mothers here. Sometimes we're just too hard on ourselves. Hey, I mean, it was such a year and you're here. Congratulations. You're here, your family's here, congratulations. And I want you to just have that mindset, you know, of being able to adapt and say, okay, well, this is not exactly how we planned it, but how can we go? And then finally, in adapting, you can't do it alone. I really believe that adage that says that it takes a village to raise a child. However, be careful how you choose your village. You need that village, but choose them intentionally. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Megor. Thank you very much. I love how she ended it. Be careful how you choose your village. It does take a village to raise a child. I spoke a lot, you know, with that about that with Kristin, you know, earlier this year. Choose your parenting village or your parenting network wisely. People you have common values with. People who think like you. People who they can't be like you 100%, but you share the same values, because they will help you. You don't know it all. You know, some of us just think, you know, if anyone, you know, says that about your child, you get immediately defensive. But what if they have something that can help you as you're raising that child? And another thing that she said, which made so much sense to me, is that you cannot outsource parenting. A lot of us, you know, which is why sometimes we send our children oh, I'm not knocking boarding house. I didn't say boarding house is bad, but some people, their main aim of putting their child in boarding house, like, oh, go and train my child for me. And that's not the school. It's not a school's job to train your child. That child was given to you for you to train. So it's for you, it's your job and it's your responsibility to train your child, okay? It's something that you are supposed to do yourself. So a lot of us, we get it wrong. We just feel, oh, let's get a nanny. Chetana, my phone, please. And I forgot to add that it's one thing I've learned this year is that I've learned not to beat and not to shout. I didn't know it was possible, honestly. I grew up with spanking, and I just thought, yeah, if they don't get it, you whoop them up. But I found that there's a better way. You don't need to necessarily. You can actually talk to them and find ways of engaging your child without spanking. And while we wait for our next speaker, I want us to take a quick poll. And if we have any questions, we can answer one or two questions now. Megor, what do you think? I want to do a quick poll, okay?
Yes.
You guys should please, those of you here, do that poll. And if you have any questions, while the poll is ongoing, you can send your questions in, okay? So we can answer them before our next panelist is ready. Should be coming in a minute. So the poll, about 13 of you have answered. We're waiting for everyone to finish up. And then the Q&A. Any questions, please? It doesn't have to be on something that we've already mentioned. It could be something different because we have people who can help you. We have a dad, a great daddy in here who is already seated and waiting to speak. FLS. We have Kristin. We have Dr. Megor, and we have myself. So if you have any questions, this is a good time to bring them up. Everybody should please vote. It's really important because we want to know how we can serve you better in 2021. We're all, everyone here, we do stuff related to family life, related to parenting. And it's important that we know, as we're doing this for ourselves as parents, because that's the major thing that you start learning about parenting to help you as a parent. And then you see that, look, there's so much more, value you can offer to other parents as well in terms of advice and all that. So that's what we're here to do, is to serve you, each of us on this panel. So we'd really like to know what are those areas that you really want to learn more about, so we can curate content in that area for you. Okay, anything you're having trouble with, and if it's not in the poll, you can actually just send it in, and we will note it. Okay, so there are two questions here, and I'm gonna give the first one to FLS.
Yes, please.
There's a question which I think you will handle very well. How do I get my husband to be more involved and deliberate in being a parent? Can you please answer that question?
The question of the ages.
Yes.
How I can be more involved in parenting. Ladies, most of us truly do not know. Men are a creature of habit. It sounds funny, can be trained. If you look back and think, when you were going out with your fiance or boyfriend back then, there were some things you did not take. And if you look back, he still hasn't done them to date. And there were some things you, in quotes, encouraged, whether deliberately or otherwise. And today you are living with those things. So simply put, I don't want to take your time. Let's divide the men into like 3 or 4 groups. Those who do not know truly. And I think those are the ones in the majority. Funny enough, if you take your poll, they truly do not know. So one of the ways to do it is to show them without screaming at them or nagging at them, or without talking them down. Let it come by way of help, first. And then after a while, gradually begin to show them what to do without nagging. What's the word now? They would rebel, which is normal because we really don't want that kind of work. But if it becomes help to you as a wife they love, they begin to do it gradually. And please, if they do something, no matter how stupid it looks, acknowledge it. With men, what you acknowledge, you get more of. What you do not acknowledge, it is seen as not worth it. So why waste my energy and time? I think that's a short one for those who do not know. For those who know and choose not to do it, that's a bit tougher. It is not the chore that is the issue. The issue is usually between you and the husband. What I mean is the issue is either the husband does not feel is useful enough to you to get it done, or the husband feels this is not my job, or the husband does not care for you, period. Get it done. It doesn't matter whether you die in the process. Get it done. Those three will take a while to unpack. I just take the one that the husband does not care for you. Excuse me. I think for most men, if a man genuinely loves you and cares for you, if you are going through pain, he would look for a way to help you. Now, he can do it his own way and mess it up, but the intent is not wrong. So for those who do not care, I think it's to fundamentally take care of the issue of the care. Because when a man loves you, he would love your family. When he loves you, he would love your child, even though it's for both of you. But after a while, the man thinks, hey, it's your problem. So we need to deal with that. Then the one where a man knows what to do and just feels it's your work, this can sometimes be from the background of the man and is so locked up in his way. For such men, I think it's actually important to use what I call the upward movement. So if my husband is a driver and he feels that he cannot change the napkin, if by some reason you're able to expose your husband to his MD, who changes the children's napkin, believe me, at first he will call the man stupid that his wife has used his head. If you are able to find an opportunity to expose him to a GM who also changes the diapers and all that, it's about who you surround him with. After a while, those things do not begin to look difficult to him anymore. He gradually tries, but like I said, if he tries it one day and he makes a mess of your counter by trying to change diaper, that's not when to say he's a useless man. That's when to say, wow, fantastic, thank you very much. I know it sounds like you are cuddling him, but the truth is, for a man, whatever you applaud gets repeated. As I said, about 3 or 4 groups, but I think I don't want to take your time. Thank you.
Thank you, FLS. I believe you answered that question really well. Please, if we don't answer your questions now, we will, if we're not able to finish them all now, by the end, we'll get to them. But I want to answer one other question. This one, I'm going to allow Kristin answer this question. Kristin, somebody is asking, how do you handle teenage boy rebellion?
Well, I think that by the time that you've gotten to the teenage years, you know, you're in the middle of it. So you can't go back in time and be more purposeful about your relationship with your son, which if people have younger children, I would recommend that you know, plan and be intentional about how you talk to your kids and train your kids, and which helps you later down the line. But once you have a teenage boy, they're fighting for their independence. They are wanting to express their manhood as they're learning to become men. And I feel that one important thing to do is to find time to sit down and chat with them when they're not in the moment of when they're angry or rebelling or upset, but find time to set an appointment as parents And I think if there are two parents, both parents should be a part of the conversation. If you're a single parent, take the time to sit down as a single parent and talk about where those boundaries are. They may be confused about where the boundaries are, and it might be an opportunity for them to say, hey, I feel like I'm man enough to try and take on you know, a new level of independence. And then you as the parent can decide if that a little backlash there. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. You as the parents can decide where the boundary should be and where you feel comfortable letting go and letting your son take on some more responsibility. So then they feel like they've been heard by you, and you feel like you've been heard by them, and you set those standards, those rules, those plans up together, and then try to move forward.
Awesome, awesome. Good advice. Thank you. Thank you very much, Kristin. So
would you mind if I add something very quickly?
Yes, please. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Kristin. I think I'm on all fours with you there. Thank you. I just want to add there's, for the man folk, the place of, I would say one more thing to add. I mean, surround your boy child with as many good models as you would want. The boys get to repeat what they think is great. You know, if a child sees others smoking and everybody paints the picture that these are superheroes, the boy usually would want to do such a thing. It could be a straight A student all the while, but the environment says, hey, you know, this is what is great. Every guy wants to be a superhero of some sort. There is an innate thing there to want to be at the top. I don't know how to explain that a bit better, but I think as women, either as mothers or as wives, the people around your manfolk matter a lot. If his friends are the type that will go around chasing women, the likelihood that they'll be doing the same thing is high. If it's in the midst of men that are very high achievers, the likelihood that they would want to be a high achiever is high. So I think the lady folks should spend more time helping their men folk, either as boys or as men, to have the right models around them. I'm not saying that's the only answer, don't get me wrong, it's just one of the things that you can add to the arsenal. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, FLS. Thank you so much. And we'll move to our next guest now here. She isn't a stranger to any of us. Her name is Tara Fela-Durotoye. She is the founder and CEO of House of Tara. She is, in fact, if I read her CV, we're going to be here for like 5 more minutes. I'm going to just skim through. She is known as a beauty entrepreneur. In fact, she kind of changed the face of beauty entrepreneurship in Nigeria, honestly. You know, I remember when she started then, it was like, who is paying people to do makeup? But she came and she started and she took the industry to another level, the whole industry. So she's one of the mamas there, to be honest. She's one of the matriarchs of the beauty industry in Nigeria as it is today. She has received several national and international awards for her contribution to the industry, for what she does to empower other women, to inspire other women. She's won an award for the most outstanding businesswoman in 2018. She's won the African Makeup Icon of the Year by the Ghana Makeup Awards. She's won the Leadership Award by the Harvard Business School Association of Nigeria. And in 2019, she won the Award for Excellence for the Social Impact and Job Creation, a national recognition of the VP. Tara is big on mentoring other women. She's big on inspiring them. She's big on showing them, look, if I could do this, or if I can do this, you can do it as well. And what I love about her the most is her family life. You know, I've been honored. Tara has no idea, but the first time I saw her, it was at a wedding. It was she was doing someone's makeup at a wedding. No, in their house. And Fela was waiting for her outside. He brought her, he was waiting for her. And I was like, oh, because I knew Fela from school. I was like, oh, hi. I was like, oh, his wife is doing makeup, you know, for this lady. And he was just, and we spoke about family life. And it was just so, I was just so happy that, look, this is a dynamite couple, as in come on. This was like how many years ago? And So nothing they do surprises me, to be honest, because the foundation, the signs were there from the early stages. And she's a mother to 3 amazing boys. And she's a Niger mom. She's not the kind of mom who just says, okay, because I'm doing celeb life, I just leave my children, anything goes. No, not Tara. So I want her to share her own lessons. She's someone I love. She's someone I'm proud to call a sister and a friend. And I want her to share what she has learned in 2020 with us as well, as a parent, and how we can take from those lessons, learn our own things as well, and move on and do better in 2021. Welcome, Tara.
Thank you, Chi. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you very, very much. Good afternoon, everyone, and well done to all the other panelists. So I have not come here as an entrepreneur. I think that parenting is the most humbling experience that anyone can have, and is the #1 leadership position that if you succeed at, then I think you are a mega star. I always tease about how parenting has really, really made me humble. You know, when you succeed in entrepreneurship, you kind of feel like, okay, there's nothing I cannot succeed, especially if you're an entrepreneur in Nigeria. But parenting has made me realize that you can be successful as an entrepreneur, but parenting is a totally different ballgame. You know how we say, if you're a businesswoman, you can apply the same business principles in this business to start makeup. You apply the same principle in selling water. It's all about marketing. It's all about having a great product. But with parenting, is a totally different ballgame. And my children, my first child is 18. He's going to be 19 in March, in a few months. My second is 17. We've started doing applications for universities, and my third is 16, and they're all boys. I think this year, I've always known this, but I think this year has also made it even clearer. You know, all children are so different. What their needs are so different, and paying attention enough to know how different they are. And so therefore bring your best self to what it is that they need. So my first son is an athlete. He plays soccer, doesn't want to go to, if he doesn't want to go to university, really, he just wants to play football professionally, right? My second is an academics. He's very big on his academics. He's a straight A student. He's head boy at his school. Doesn't like physical touch in terms of football, any kind of game, because he doesn't want to get hurt. My third, on the other hand, is both a creative and extremely smart, but very confident, very outspoken. He's a child that goes to a school and the teachers don't forget him because he gives them hell, right? He's a child that if he's taught, any teacher that teaches him never forgets him. So I can be at the airport, I can be in the market, anywhere, and somebody can just stop me and say Morala's mom. And usually they would call you by your first child's name most times, right? But when I look at them, I'm like, are you a teacher? Whether you're a Sunday school teacher in church or you're a teacher in school, he's very argumentative. He's very wise. He likes to share his opinion when his opinion is different. He's forceful about it. I always tease that every time you have an instruction at home and you say, do this, my first son will say, okay, mommy, is this what you want me to do? And you say yes. Even if he's not happy with it, he's saying that my parents want me to do it, so he will do it. The second will, when you tell him what he's going to do is in his mind, he will not tell you, but he's going to do what's in his mind. My third, on the other hand, is very combative. He wants you to explain to him, and then he wants to tell you why he doesn't agree, right? And he will engage you. And so he's that child that will engage. He will insist that this is how he thinks it should be. And we always tease, sometimes he wears you out and you allow him. Other times you decide that, you know what, your head is not stronger than my own. So therefore you must do what I want you to. And the difference in even their love language. So I have one child who loves gifts, who wants to be gifted. He wants you to know that you thought about him. I have another child that is not interested in you buying anything for him. He never asks you for anything, but he wants to have conversations. That's my third. He wants to have conversations. He likes to talk. He wants to see you physically. He wants to spend time. quality time with you, and that's him. My first is, let me serve you. You know, what do you need me to do? Should I help in the kitchen? Should I? And knowing that each one of them is different, and then using this period to kind of teach myself and get used to the fact that it's not all size fits all for the three of them. I think that's one of the things about 2020. My children experienced grief, the loss of their two friends in this year. Most traumatic. One of the boys, I live in an estate, I live in a gated community. My children were born in the gated community. So you can imagine all of them have friends from when they were little. They went to a school within the estate, a nursery school. So it meant that the kids from the estate went to the school. So you can imagine how those relationships have been. One of the boys is 20. He died of colon cancer. The second one plays football. And he must have gotten his head hit somewhere and had internal bleeding, and nobody knew. And so suddenly he was unconscious. They took him to the hospital. He was dead in like 24 hours. So my three children all have special relationships with these two children, and boys as well. One died just last month, I think 1st of October, and the other one died earlier on in the year, but during COVID. And my heart was broken for the parents and the mothers of those children, but I also saw my children hurt because this is the first time they were experiencing grief so closely. And yet again, they all handled it differently. It was interesting. So my number two didn't cry at all. This is one of the things I found out about him. He didn't cry. In both cases, he held on to the pain. He held the pain inside and didn't really express it. But the school he applied for to go to Wharton, and his early application started, and they just sent a feedback saying he wasn't accepted. And he was very sad by it. But just last night, we sat with him, just having a chat, just trying to find out where his mind was. And all of a sudden, he just started crying. And he was crying and crying and crying. And then he said, this year has just been the worst year ever in my life. And then he started to talk about Daniel that died. He started to talk about Tobias that died. And he started talking about COVID and all of that. And what I saw was something triggered it. And what was it that triggered it? It was a neighbor's Christmas tree. Neighbor's Christmas tree said to him, this is Christmas, already the end of the year, and see what 2020 did to me. And he broke down, okay? And my third cried when he first heard, but he's also deeply spiritual. And the minute I called him into the kitchen and I said, something bad has happened, I just need to let you guys know, he raised a praise song and he immediately started to praise God. He cried, but he was praising. And soon after, when I asked him how, somebody said they felt the children should see a therapist because it was just too much and they wanted to organize something. So a mom reached out to me and said, what do I think? I said, I agree because I don't know what to do. So I called my wise one, the last one, and I said to him, what do you think? He said, well, he says he thinks that a lot of people have moved on and that to bring it up will be to reignite the pain again. And he didn't think so. And he said in his own case, what he's found that this period has done for him is to be reflective of why he's alive, that for God to have allowed him to live, it's not because he's better than Daniel, it's not because he's better than Tobias, it's because God has a plan for him. And for him, he's now more conscious of finding what his purpose for being alive is. So I saw yet again a difference in how they're handling it. My first, on the other hand, was more concerned, like me, was more concerned about the parents, about the people that prayed when Tobias had cancer, that they should not lose their faith in God. That was his focus. Demlade, on the other hand, felt the pain, he's grieving, and he's going through that grief. And my hope is that as they evolve in the different seasons of their lives, I will be attentive enough to know that something has shifted and be present and know that I have what it takes, because there's a fear of, am I capable to be able to remind myself consistently that I have what it takes to also respond to them in the different seasons of their lives. So those are some of the two things I would like to to share. I hope it's helpful. I hope anyone finds it useful one way or the other. So thank you so much for having me, Chiomah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tara. Thank you. And they are useful. You know, sometimes we forget that these children, especially with grief management, we forget that they're dealing with a lot of stuff. We forget that they feel stuff the same way we do. And one thing that you highlighted, which is important, that they are so different. They're extremely, extremely different. So it's not a one size fits all, you know. And I constantly have to remind myself, my first child is an extrovert, my second child is an introvert. My daughter is another human being altogether. My youngest, he makes stuff happen in the house. Everybody has their own nature. Nothing is good, nothing is bad, but it's for us to learn, okay, who can handle this better? Who can we go to talk about this? How does this child process things? You obviously understand your children and how they process information and process different events, and know that, okay, this is how I will treat you on as what's it called? As
an individual
basis. Yeah. Just as individuals, they're all different. So you at times as parents, maybe one person acts more like you, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, but that's just the way God made them. And everybody has their different gifts that come out in different places. So just you narrating that and just seeing how your child, the oldest one, was thinking of the parents and thinking of other people, everybody has something that that they bring to the table. So that the person is not like you doesn't make it bad.
I'd like to add something else,
okay,
if you don't mind.
Please,
with my second child, who is the one who I said is grieving, right, as opposed to the others, grieving in the way that we know how grief is, where he's crying, he says he remembers Daniel every day. So I said he's head boy of his school, and because he's head boy, right, he generally has relationship with children across different year groups. Okay. And Daniel is more or less age mate, which is my last, but he had a relationship with Daniel. And because they also go to a school in the gated community as well, where I live. So it means they ride bicycles and they see themselves like if you don't live in the gated community, then you get in a car. But with my own children and children who live in the estate, they ride their bicycles. Right? So when they get on their bicycle, the chances are you bump into Daniel and then you guys have a chat on your way home. And he says every single day he sees an image of Daniel. And when I look at, and it's great that we know that he's the most emotional. He's the one he's also very, 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 usually in deep thought. So if something goes wrong, we respond to him, we give him, it's not that we give him more attention, but you always need to know how he's thinking, because he's like his dad. He thinks deeply about things, he's processing things, and it can be negative, right? So whereas the first is like me, where let's move on. What's next? Let's just move on. The last is like super cheerful. He's always singing. He has a horrible voice, but he loves to sing.
He doesn't care.
He doesn't care. He sings all the time. So he sees things from a different lens. My second will think it through. So he's going to be he's probably going to be a social entrepreneur. He wants to solve, he's the one that notices, poor people, poor communities. He's conscious of those things. So he internalizes. And because of that reason, Fela and I have to call him out of where he is, in a figurative sense, way, to draw him out of where he is. And that's where the difference is that, come and sit with me. So what's going on? What are you thinking about? What's on your mind? And then you go through the whole process of drawing it out and reassuring him, that what's he not accepting you is their loss, right? And, they've lost you, this amazing child, you this whatever. My third is not humble at all. He's completely proud. So if the school refuses him, he's probably going to tell me that, Mom, the school just lost, right? But you have to reassure this one and also let him know that, see, his desperation to be hyper successful because he wants his parents to, we have to work on that to say, we love you unconditionally. You don't have to be the best student. You don't have to be, your GPA doesn't have to be 4 point something before we love you. It's the reassurance and just knowing that, and the paying attention to knowing that each child is different. Pulling one child out of a particular school because it just doesn't work you know, it's another thought that came to my mind right now about my number 2. And just, I'm grateful to God that I have the capacity to see that difference, but I'm also praying that I have the strength to also evolve with them as they evolve.
Awesome, thank you. And that last point was important because it's something you drew out. The fact that you're observing your children to know that this person is like this and this is what he will most likely be. He's likely to be a social entrepreneur because he has XYZ gifts. You know them so well. And because you know them so well, if they're going on the wrong course, you'll be able to say, are you sure? And if they're going on the right course, you'll be able to encourage them more and say, okay, yeah.
That's it. That's the way.
You know. So it's amazing. So as parents, it's an interesting job, honestly. It's just not to be just be burning them and populating the world. We need to be very deliberate about it and understand these gifts in our custody. And thank you for sharing the time. Please stay around because we're going to have 2 more great sessions and then we're going to answer a few questions. But those points are really important. Please know your children. Start from when they're really young. Their characters are very clear. As even from when they're toddlers, you begin to see who is the person who is more determined, who is the strong-willed one, who is the emotional one, who is the one who is very, very,
more discerning.
Yes, so begin to study them. And then for some people, they might need more help than others because they might be more easily judged or misjudged.
Yes.
It's not because not that you're showing preference to one child, but because you understand that this child, if I leave her or leave him, there might be a problem. This other one can deal with it. I know him. He's very, he's tough. He can deal with it. But this other one might need a little more edging and talking. And in my house, I was that. My mom had 6 children. I was the most emotional one. She was like, what kind of wahala is this one? Out of 6 children, just one. Yes. But no, but they so that I had, and thank God for them because they took time to always affirm me as a child. And they really did do a lot for me. Okay, so thank you, Tara. Thank you so much. I'm going to go on to the next person, Kristin.
Hello.
Oh, yes. Where are you? So, Kristin, I've already done an intro of you before. This is our grandma in the house, like I said. It's just funny how you connect with people. We connected on Instagram, and she's become a friend because we can share stuff. We learn from each other. We draw from each other's strength in so many ways. And one of the biggest aha moments for me dealing with Kristin was to see that, look, you know how we always say Naija moms are tough, Naija moms are this, and then European moms are very soft, and we have so much in common. Parenting, good parenting is good parenting all over the globe. Take it from me. That's what I found out. Good parenting is by the time your mom gives you the look with your eyes and speaks to you, then you know that you better sit up and act up. So it's universal. And my mom would always say it. When we look at at the Western world, we look at the negative examples of children who are raised poorly. But if you go to people who are raising their children properly in the Western world, you will admire them. You will want to raise your children like that. So good parenting is good parenting. Kristin, please share your lessons with us. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yes, it's been such a gift to meet over the internet. It's such a gift, Chiomah, to see how many things we have in common as far as parenting our children. And so it's been so much fun. And I appreciate being included on this webinar today. I wanted to start, I'm going to be looking at a few notes because there's been so much wisdom shared already. And Dr. Megor commented that she and her husband always say, design precedes practice. And I loved that quote because isn't that why we're all here today? We're talking about what we've learned in this crazy year of 2020 and designing how we want to proceed with that learning into 2021. So I loved that quote. I also wanted to share that, Chiomah, when you started, I had you and I are definitely on the same page with what our learnings were from this year as we move forward. So you had quoted that the kids are watching you model the right behavior. And I love that quote because it's exactly what I was going to start with, is the same theme. Children may not always listen to what we have to say as parents, but they never fail to watch our behavior. And it was exactly what you were saying. And Mahatma Gandhi said, let your life be your message. And it's such a simple way of us, for us to remember as parents, taking that from a parenting perspective, that how you live your life is your message, not only to the world, but to the children that you're bringing into the world. So, of course, we all know it's been a crazy year. Here in the United States, it's been a very divisive year. We have had a lot of turmoil in our country. I live in a region where we had a lot of damage done by wildfires. We lived in smoke for at least a month and a half. You couldn't hardly go outside. So the whole year has just been crazy. And I have 4 young adult children. My youngest will be turning 21 in February. My oldest is married and has a son, so I am a grandmother. And we've been fortunate that 3 of our kids still live at home. They're going to college, to university. And then, of course, my oldest and her husband and my grandson live very close. So we have kept close through the quarantine and learned a lot of lessons. And so the 2 lessons that stand out to me are, the first one is to stop and find solutions, because my kids are old enough to vote. They're old enough to understand the different perspectives out there. They're old enough to be on Facebook and Instagram and see, well, people posting sometimes things that aren't true, radical ideas, all of, kind of just so much going on. And as we would talk as a family, and realizing, my husband and I realizing the fact that our kids have their own views and their own way of thinking now, we still, as parents, provide, that a mentorship by what we say and do. They're looking, my youngest son at the beginning of the pandemic said, "Mom, have you ever been through anything like this before? What have you been through?" And I said, "Nothing. There's nothing like this here that I have ever been through before. So we're in this together. I know you're young and you think I've been through a lot, and I have, but nothing ever like this year." So how my husband and I modeled taking in all this chaos and information was some wisdom that we gained from a professor we had in college. And the professor said, when you get a job in the real world and you have a complaint, don't just go to your boss and complain. Go to your boss with a complaint and 3 solutions on how to fix it. And so sitting back and watching all the stuff going on social media and all the news, I took that wisdom, and my husband and I would sit there and we would say, well, there's a pandemic. And while I can't solve that problem, what can I do? What are solutions that we can take forward to help our family and our community? We can, send letters and cards to family members that we can't visit. We can drop off flowers to the grandmas on Mother's Day. We can, choose to sit and be angry about things, or we can choose to do something for somebody else. We can donate to a food bank. We can donate money towards a cause. So we aren't completely helpless in this world, even though sometimes these big issues make us feel like we're powerless. When it came time to vote in November here, it wasn't just the presidential election. It was, we were voting on other positions in government and other issues. And even my youngest son was old enough, this was his first time to vote. And we talked about how once you've cast your vote, you've researched, you cast your vote, you've done your duty as a voting citizen. And once the results come in, your duty doesn't stop. Whether or not your issues passed or didn't pass, you still can help people in the community. You still can participate in how things move forward with your community. So for me, finding solutions and teaching my young adult kids that while we may feel powerless, or this year there was a lot of controversy and there was a lot going on, where do people need help? Where do the people in your community, in your family need help? And take those solutions and move forward. Not only did it help us feel better about where we were at, I feel like it also helped with our situation as we were quarantined together within the house, because 5 adults in a house, plus, you know, my other daughter and her husband and the baby, sometimes we had several people in the house. You know, you can get on each other's nerves a little bit here and there. And I think it really helped when we had that positive influence, you know, the positive focus on doing stuff for other people or finding solutions, really changed the atmosphere in the house from the beginning of the pandemic till the end. And one other solution we came up with underneath that category was that we all realized how enjoyable it was to have our holidays. This year, we missed our big family. We have a big family. Holidays are filled with a lot of cooking and planning and running around. And this year that didn't happen. It was just our small family. And at one point, one of my kids said, "This is so nice to have time together." And so we decided to solution that by picking one of the smaller holidays in the year, which is called Labor Day. Here in the US, it's just a 3-day weekend in September, and making that our small family time as a big holiday. So we will spend that weekend together doing, enjoying each other's company, playing games, doing whatever it is that we've enjoyed during the pandemic. We won't interfere with the big holidays because we love seeing family, and there's a lot of memory and tradition with that. But a solution was to pick a smaller holiday and celebrate it together, so that we can always remember 2020 and the time we enjoyed each other's company, because they are adults, they're spreading out, they're doing different things, and it's a way for us to stay connected. The second way, the second learning that I had is finding what's important for you and letting go. So an example of that was we have the holiday called Thanksgiving, and it's a big feast. It's usually we have 25 people over, and there's cooking, and it's an all-day prep event. And this year, of course, it was smaller. And instead of me cooking the meal, my kids all wanted to take on cooking the side dishes. So that left my husband and I actually letting go and letting them take on the responsibility of pulling the meal together, and enjoying the fact that they were doing the work. They were excited to do the work. It made them feel a part of the meal. And why is it that I always feel like I have to do everything? I have to cook the meal or it won't be done right, or I have to be in charge. I have to pick how it goes together. And they all did it on their own. It was wonderful. And I think as parents, a lot of times we have a hard time letting go. Our goal eventually is to let go. Once, you know, we've talked about how, Chiomah, I believe you mentioned how, you know, you have to instill the habits by reminding and reminding and reminding. And at some point they will catch on. And then that is a task that we can let go of and let them take responsibility for. Sometimes it may be their schoolwork. This year, so many parents were doing the remote learning with their kids. And there's a lot of pressure. As a former teacher, I can only imagine, you know, what the teachers are going through, but also as a parent, you know, you want your child to succeed, and you're trying to work your career in the background and teach your kids. You have to let go of something. You have to let go of perfection. If your child misses an assignment or something falls through the cracks, they have a little bit of responsibility in that too. And it provides an opportunity for you to talk about what they're responsible for, what you're responsible for, and letting go a little bit. So you know, that was another takeaway that I had. And as parents, just to, you know, come around to wrapping that up, it's our life is our message. How we talk with our kids, how we represent ourselves online, on social media, in our life, how we respond to people that have a negative complaining. There was a lot of, we had some family friends, we had some family members that had a really hard time with this situation and with the pandemic. And how did they handle it? Was it just complaining, or was it complaining and then saying, you know, it's been a rough year, but here, let's do something positive? So the kids could see how other people handled things online and how we handled things online. What learnings can they take forward with their life as they raise their families and they become adults? What was helpful? Is it helpful to just complain, or is it helpful to say, yeah, you know, this was a real bummer, but here's 3 ways we can move forward. Our actions are mentoring our kids, not just our words, but our actions are mentoring our kids, no matter how old they are, whether they're little, whether they're in elementary, you know, middle school age, whether they're going off to university. They are still looking to you and what you're saying and what you're doing. So those were my big takeaways: the stop and find solutions, and letting go and finding what's important to you this year.
I always forget to unmute myself. Thank you, Kristin. Thanks for that wisdom. Thank you. I learned a lot. And I love the statement you made that parenting is not perfection, you know, and how you took opportunity of this time to teach your children to find solutions, to help out, to reach out to other people, and to also appreciate your bigger family and your more what's the word? What do we learn in social studies? Extended family, your
nuclear.
Your nuclear family. Yeah. So you know, so I like that you're learning. Oh, yes, we love our extended family. We love the big family gathering, but we also love to be with ourselves and learn more and spend more time together. There's a lot we can learn when we are together. So you're teaching them even in, you know, as they're adults, how to reach out, how to find solutions, and then you're not being too hard on yourself. Parents, one thing we need to learn to let go. Let go at different stages of life. Sometimes there's this thing we do called helicopter parenting now, when we want to hover over our child. So there's a balance. Yeah, and it's not there's no book that tells you the whole thing, but we're just trying to learn. But one thing I know is that you should give your children some time to learn things. As you're teaching them, as you're being consistent, you also have to say, okay, you know what, I can let them do these things themselves. You think, oh, they can't cook, you think they can't do anything themselves, you think, oh, you're the only one that knows how to get it all fixed up. Allow them, give them. So you know, when you trust their abilities, they will surprise you. That's one thing I've learned during this pandemic. My children, who I thought could not cook, you know, they really surprised me in the kitchen. You know, they did more than I thought they could, especially my youngest. He really, really did surprise me. He's like the best. He can crack eggs like no man's business, you know, at his level, you know, at his level. So everyone is doing something, you know. So let's learn when it's time to let go. And, you know, we said we're going to end at 7. By 7, we'll do some questions. I can see your questions already, so we're going to answer them. But we're going to end it with a man. You know, when we talk about parenting, I can tell you that 85% of the people that register for this course, let's say 85, 90% of them are women, if not 95. You know, I saw very few men, because somehow people have just feel that this thing is for women to do. You know, it's for the mommies, and it's really not for the moms. But even us as moms, we also need to make sure that we are not the ones overdoing it and not allowing the men to step up and take their roles. And that's why I appreciate men like FLS, who I'm going to introduce to you, and who will just, you know, end, you know, with his own session. FLS was my neighbor, and we went to the same university, went to Ife. But what I noticed about him was his parenting style. He was and he still is a very hands-on dad. And he's a very busy dad, because some people think that the men that do school runs are the jobless ones. Not true. He is the GMD of a big technology, as one of the foremost IT firms in Nigeria. He's the GMD. He's an author, he's a speaker, he's into all sorts of things, he mentors people, and he's a very busy man, but he's also a man who makes out time for his family. He makes out time for his family. He's very deliberate about his parents. He has a very close relationship with his children. And even I, as a neighbor, was able to notice that. And that's how, that's what made me, brought me even closer to him, as a friend. And I want him to tell us the lessons that he has learned in this year, as he talks about, I always bring him every now and then to talk, on podcasts about the role of a father, but I don't know what he's going to share, but he's going to share his own perspective, his own lessons of what he learned this year. FLS.
Thank you very much, Chiomah. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having me. I've been listening, and to some extent, I was asking myself, is there anything to say again? Because I think everything has been said, really. I was just asking myself, I think maybe we should just close and let people ask questions, because the truth is, in this day and age, I say it over and over again, if I felt like an imposter when you asked me to talk, and I said, the truth is, I think it should be my wife speaking here, because the truth is, I'm sure most men, if they want to be truthful, would say that, we're practically useless without our women. God is just too wonderful. When he said a man should not be alone, he knew what he was saying, really. And it shows in things that happen on a daily basis. So for the women on this, in this group or here, I would like to say, believe me, we appreciate you. And sometimes we don't know how to express it. Sometimes we are just poor at expressing it. Some may not appreciate it, but the truth is this: God notices what you are doing. And I want to plead with you not to let go, because tomorrow would speak well of you. On behalf of all the men, I want to say thank you, because you are bearing the brunt. And hope is that as we do more of this, men will, to take their places, in making the job easier and creating, and building the next generation, for a better world. Having said that, I'd like to start from a different perspective, and that is mental health. It took me by surprise this year, actually. I've never been the type to pay a lot of attention to mental health issue personally. I've always thought, okay, I'm a Christian. I believe strongly in God and a relationship with God. I've always thought, you know what? Pray, go out there. As long as you are doing something, as long as you are thinking, as long as you are, looking for problems to solve, you are good. But I got into a rut this year for the first time in my life. I've never been, down. When I say, I've had times where I think, okay, what should I be doing? But I got into a stage where for weeks I wasn't thinking. I felt like I had just a block in my head, and that weighed me down. I was really, really surprised that, it's something that, you are more like one is thinking and he's thinking, this can't, and this being, it's not possible. So it's giving me a lot of what do you call it? It's giving me a lot of thought into the human mind, into how we should not play with our mental health. Because if you are not there mentally, it is likely, so it's unlikely you'll be there emotionally or otherwise for the family. So as women and as men who have children, let us please take care of our mental health. It's extremely important. I know with COVID it's a bit more difficult, but I think what we should do is let us find different ways to take care of our mental health so that we do not sink into a rut. Once we do that, it's difficult to be there for somebody else. So that's my first learning really for this year. And the truth is this, I'm always out there. I always want to get things done. I was shocked, man, when it came to mental health issue. I'm not crazy, but I knew I had a time where I just, you wake up in the morning, the whole day goes, and you wonder what is going on. Yeah, if you are going through that this time, please reach out. Don't get stuck. It's a land of it's like a land of sinking ship, but makes you feel good sinking with it. Reach out, please, because you are more important, not just to yourself, you are more important to a lot more people than just yourself. And let that be what propels you beyond yourself. Because if it's just about you, it's likely to allow yourself to just sink in. Please take care of your mental health. It's very, very important. Because without proper mental health, it's unlikely you're even able to do anything. At least I speak for myself. I wasn't able to function and all that. But thank God for a good woman in my life. And this is why, God has just been great. And gracious to someone like me, giving me a wonderful woman to call my wife, who would be there, who is first to ask you, are you okay? What's going on? No. Okay, I won't go anywhere today. I want to listen to you and all that. And that pulled me out. The truth is, you would never know looking at me, but thank God for a great woman in my life. So that's one. I don't want to belabor it. The second thing I've also learned is this journey of parenting. The truth, and I hope it's not fallacy, and I hope it's not, what's the word now? An anathema to say this. This truth about these children, actually, it's about us. Parenting is really not about these children. It's about us. First and foremost, the way I look at it is, I think God gave me children to know how I treat him. All those times I am rebellious to him. All the times he tells me to do stuff and I don't get them done. All the times I don't want to listen to him. All the times I go out of my way, to do those. I think he gave me those children. It's okay, see what you take me through. And I think that, as a father, he's more interested in these children than we really are ourselves, no matter how much we think we are. So I think as a person, now I'm saying this may not be for, if you do not believe in God and all that, I apologize, but hey, this is my life and this is what I have seen work. So I can only speak of what I know. I can't speak for other people. But what I found out truly is that as a person, if you take your time to know that this journey is about you, and that's where the intentionality is, that is where the, modeling comes from. Because when you make up your mind to do the right things, like Kristin said, these kids watch you. So it is not a journey to force them to do the right thing. It's a journey for you to do the right things. I think I said this in a meeting we're in at some point, where right now, my kids are now my, would I say mentors, or are now my policemen. There's no way on earth I can drive on the wrong way. Driving, it is not possible. With my children in the car, it is not possible. There's no way I can throw things out of my car. Driving, it is not possible. From the youngest to the oldest. In fact, they will stop me. I will walk. They will not allow you to even drive back. I will walk back to pick that thing on the road. Why? When they were growing, these were things we talk about. Like Chiomah would say, for me, every time we're in the car is a teachable moment for myself and for themselves. I'm learning from them. Tara said something that is so important. Each of these children teach us things about us. Because when you know those things, you now begin to act on them. But if you don't even know in the first place, if you don't put your brains to it, to attune your mind to these things, you just live your life anyhow. And one day you realize that all this were with me all the while. The third thing is, you don't have these children for too long. For me, I appear older now, but I just think about it. When was it that I was living with my mom, But the truth is, after 18 years, which is here in no time, they're gone. They're now on their own. So if we live deliberately, we know that we do not have as much time as we think. Let us create memories. Let us have fun in the process. But more importantly, let us know that while we are doing this, we have one thing that some other people don't have. I know there's no two. We can read. Can read about those things, and God would lead you to the right. But if you don't even know, what do you do? And then the second thing, really, which is what I am very big on, I say this: from the day my children were conceived, I laid hands on my wife's tummy, and what I said is, God, these ones are tied to your horns, to the horns at your altar, all the days of their lives. God forbid I may mess up, but these ones are not going anywhere. They will turn out right. So what that means is that every day I need to go and get the manual of God, what God wants me to do about these children. So yes, I may rely on what I've read, but not too much. Because these people are individuals. Like Tara said, you have a child who internalizes things a lot. How many books do you want to read to get what is there? But you can wake up in the morning as a father and you pray and God says, you know what, don't go anywhere today. No matter how much that $1 billion deal is, sit down, talk to this child. Or you know what, take this child out, both of you take a walk. It's on that walk that you will find out that something big is about to happen. And I say, even as parents, we don't rely a lot on that. The world has told us that we are too spiritual. And so as a result of that, we want to do it the other people's way. I don't know about you, but I mean, like I said, I can only speak for myself. The truth is the majority of the big chunk of what you need to do is actually because these children, the Bible says these children are a gift from God to us. They are his own, not our own. So the truth is they are meant to teach us about who we are to him, how we break his heart, how we make him happy when we do great stuff, how we propagate his goodness, how no matter what we do, he would love us to heaven and back. No matter what your children do, you love them anyway, no matter. Like I tell my daughter, see, whatever you do in this world, I may be angry, but man, you can't take a bite out of my love. It is intact always and forever. The same way God loves us and he's not going to take anything away. So for me, I think we have something that is going for us. The world has told us, oh, this is the way to do it. You are being foolish, or you are being too religious or fanatical by going this way. Well, sorry, I can only say what worked for me. The same way the average guy would tell you that if you love your wife and you want to spend time with your wife, you're a woman rapper. But the truth is, and that's why a lot of men who would naturally have spent time with their wives would spend time with their bodies out there because they don't want to be seen as woman rapper. You know, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, if there's a word like that, where people do the wrong thing because they want to look good to other people. And that's the way things work. So for me, I think we have something going for us, that God has given us these children, is willing to talk to us on a daily basis. If we realize that this journey is more about us, in fact, this journey is as much about us as it is about these children. You read, but get direction. For each of these children, there is a specific direction as to what to do. Sometimes you are stumbling, you don't even know what you are doing, but God is saying, not to worry, I've got you. So apologies if I sound too spiritual, but the truth is I don't know any other thing, and I can only say what I know for myself. So I've talked about mental health. I've talked about modeling and living actively. I was very excited this evening when I told my children, do a plan for the rest of the year for the family. What are we going to do between now and January? And I was excited when my daughter said to me that, you know what, 31st of December, we need to review our plan for the year. And, you know, what are we doing next? You know, so he said, okay, we'll go to church. We need to do our plans and we need to review it. I mean, review the plan for the year and do what we're doing for next year, you know, before we go to church. I was excited because I did not even tell them that. I was expecting something else. I was expecting they were going to tell me something else. So they did their plan. Who is going to who is going to clean the house? Who is going to clean the compound? Who is going to cook? Hey, my job is done. I just want to be a good daddy. And in another 5-10 years, I want to have fun. But this is the time to do the work and know that, hey, there is finally the place of prayer. Sorry, again, I've come. The place of prayer. I beg of you. See, these children are too full. They are a complete package for tomorrow. They are not for today. You are living today. These are the people that will make the tomorrow fantastic. We cannot afford to be lazy about them and then to teach them the word of God. And Chiomah knows this. For my children, we do finance, we do entrepreneurship, we do community living, and then we do, what's the fourth one we do again now? The 4 things we do in our curriculum, you know, but it's in different ways around things that move on in life and all that. So we are moving on to something else that we're doing right now. So bottom line is do as much as you can. And somebody wrote in here to say, men are very busy. Yes, men are very busy, but I have a slight twist to it. the things that are most important to you, you always find time for. Thank you.
Very true, FLS. Thank you so much. I don't know what happened to his network, but I think that's a good point. And then, you know, thank you so much, Folorunso. The things that are important to you, you find time for them, you make time for them. When you're toasting that babe, you know, and you're going to her room every day, driving from Festac to Ikoyi to go and visit her, you don't mind. So when it's time to be a daddy, you must find the time to do the needful. You must find the time. FLS, God bless you. Thank you for always making yourself available to teach. And without further ado, I want to go to the questions because I really am conscious of time. And I'm going to, where are the questions? Okay. Tara, let me ask you a question. I know you have to excuse us in a few minutes. Your name is on this question. Miss Tara, Mrs. Tara, please tell us, how were you able to understudy and know your children so well? How are you able to understand and know your children so well?
Thank you for that question. And thank you, SLS, for being so authentic and being so, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for being so authentic. Many times when we're invited to speak on panels, assessments have been done, and you are invited because of who you are, your principles, your belief systems, your values. And thank you for sharing your values with us on this platform. I'm truly, truly grateful. Learned a lot from all you've discussed today. And we are grateful that you came rather than sending your wife, because then we have some diversity on the platform. But please give her all my love, because, you know, it's so important for women to pay attention, not just to their children, but also to their husbands. And I'm happy that she was able to pick up on what was the challenges you were facing during this COVID, like many of us also experienced. And then she was able to sit with you and just listen. So God bless her and give my love to her. So going to the question that was asked,
thank you, ma'am.
One of the things is I think generally the same way we get to know our friends, the same way we get to know our spouses, is we pay attention. We just pay attention. So we listen to conversations. I eavesdrop on my children's conversations when they're having them. I ask questions and listen to responses. Recently, one of my sons asked me, he said, you know, in my first, he said to me, "Mom, do I have to marry a virgin?" Right? And what I said to Fela was when your child is asking you, do I need to marry a virgin? You know that he's probably going through some challenge. He's thinking about sex, right? And as a dad, please, you need to address it, and as a Christian father as well. So we pay attention. So it's in paying attention, that's one. And I think not having a mentality that everybody's the same. You be conscious of individual, that the fact that someone is an individual. Some days I've sat down to write down, taking my phone, the notes on my phone, and ask myself, what do I know about this child? And it forced me to think about it. It's forced me to vocalize it. It's forced me to become conscious of it. I've sat down and said, what are each child's strengths? You know, I've also sat with my children and said, you know what, let's look at strengths. Let's go online and download strengths. And when I call a word, you tell me whether you think this represents you and your personality, generosity, thoughtfulness, empathy. And when I call the words, the children say, I say, if you think it's you, tick it. If you're not sure, just put a star behind it and we can discuss it later on. And in those conversations, even I am forced to realize, oh, this child does not think, is not very conscious about developing relationship with people. How do I help him with that in that area? Or this child is particular about that, and how do I help with that? The third thing, in this more recently, especially because of my first son who's an athlete and wants to play professional football. I had to, first of all, send him to school, a football academy, so the school where football is played every single day. I was hoping that when he goes through the rigors of playing football every day and all the stress of it, he would say to us, you know what, I just want to go to university, blah, blah, blah. But then he said to us, you know, he wants to play football professionally. And one day his father, and so I prayed, and you know, SLS also gave that, he referenced it. I was going on my exercise one day and I said, Lord, I want you to reveal my child to me in the things of the Spirit. So I know him today because I've paid attention to him. I have done all these exercises. I've assessed his love language. I've assessed how he responds to discipline, what works and what does not work, right? This one you cannot manipulate. This one you cannot cry for. This one you cannot shout on. You know, I've assessed all those things, but I don't know tomorrow. And so, Lord, I ask you to reveal Mobolorin to me the things of the Spirit. I want to know if this is the journey you want. I don't want to just assume that, no, your grandfather was a professor. Your granddad your granddad or your mother side was this and that. And we've always been this and that in the family. And, you know, I'm also conscious of the fact that, you know, both of us, that's Fela and I, have very strong brands, right? And, you know, you don't want your children to be clouded by that. And that's also a concern that I have. And so I was happy to hear that he wanted to play football, because you can't really compare him to Fela. You can't say, oh, your father is a this and you are a this. It's just, you know, this was my concern. So I prayed out of panic. And I said, God, I want you to show me this child in the things of the Spirit. And I don't know, I know him today. I've seen him, but I don't know what the future holds for him. And I prayed that prayer. I went on my exercise. As I came back, this is sharing a testimony as well. And I'm hoping that this will encourage somebody else. And as I walked into the house, I bumped into my husband. He was on his way out. He said to me, you know, baby, if I'm as passionate about my business as Mobolorin is passionate about football, I will be completely, I would have, what's the word that we use in Nigeria? I would have blown, right? I would have completely blown. And for me, I saw that as a sign. And I said, God, I want you to show me a sign. The same week, we found a scout. My son was playing football. A scout came and said to him, engaged him. He came home and said, Mom, I saw a scout today. I said, you saw a scout today. This 1 week, the same week where his father said this to me and made me realize, oh, you know what? This is what I think God is saying to me. And then you find a scout. And I put them all together. Lastly, one of the things I would like to share is how I've learned in this period to raise a memorial. So I spent time talking to each of my children and telling them about the days where we prayed about something concerning them and God answered. And it's amazing how their faith is being built on that. So I said to Mobolorin, I said, before you were born, I wanted to travel to have you. And your dad said we shouldn't, because everybody was doing it, does not mean we should. And he prayed and God gave me a word. Let me show you the word. I brought out the scripture and said, this is the word that God gave us when I was leaving Nigeria, when I was going to have you. I said to him, when you were born, 6 months after we saw a growth in your mouth, we took you to shops to see Dr. Karunwi, who he knows very well. And I said, Dr. Karunwi did a slight surgery on you, and the thing busted. After a while, it came out as 2 a few days after. I said, we took you to Pastor Paul, and Pastor Paul laid on hands on you, and overnight the thing totally disappeared. Until today, you don't have that growth. I said, remember, you had a keloid growth on your hand, and you told me, Mommy, I'm not happy, I'm conscious of it. And I said, why don't you pray about it? And you were 8 years old or so, and the thing fell off. And we started to talk about, you know, I said to him about your football. This is why we are supporting you on this journey. And we're saying, you know what, the dad is saying, I'm going to go with you all the way on this. And we're going to make this sacrifice, even though this is not what we have ordinarily wanted to do. I said, the reason why is because your dad prayed, and this was what God gave. This is a sign God gave him. I prayed, this is a sign that God gave me. And I think for those of us who are Christians on this platform, let's remind, and this is what God was telling the children of Israel to do as well, that always talk about what I did in Egypt, right? So that from one generation to the other, there is a memorial that's been raised. And I also used it to teach my children about Thanksgiving and living a lifestyle of what we call Thanksgiving, where we remember. And so in prayers, we're saying to the Lord, God, we're not of them that do not remember. We remember. So I said to them, Laddie, you know, you had a growth on your leg and we wanted to do a surgery. And your dad said he didn't want me to take you for surgery in India because he was concerned. And I was concerned that if you went to primary school wearing shorts with that leg, people will be mocking you all the time. I didn't want you to go through that. And your dad said he wasn't sure. One day, he just, you know, had a conversation with Pastor Paul. And Pastor Paul said, oh, how are you? He said, oh, you know, I'm a bit conscious. This is what is going on. And Pastor Paul said to him, listen, if your wife wants that child to go and have a surgery, please allow her to go. He even transferred money and said, take. My son is now 17. This is more than 12 years ago or so. Yeah, 12 years, I'm getting my maths right. And I took him for the surgery. And I said to him, by the time I was taking him for the surgery, your dad now had a confirmation that I should take you for surgery. It was not God that spoke to him directly, but somebody who is sat under in terms of spiritual leadership. And so that's how, and I've told them more and more stories, and I repeat the stories to them. And I say, the reason why I'm sharing the stories to you is to let you know that God has been good to us over the years, through the years, and reminding you so that any day that you are in a place where there's no one, remember the meaning of your name. God gave your dad this name, and he gave a scripture to support the name. This is the meaning of your name. That is why you are called this. And it's a promise. Remind yourself. So I will say this again at the end. One lesson I've learned is to raise memorial for my children, memorial of God's goodness in the minds of my children, by telling them different times where we have taken a challenge about them to God, and God has answered us more than once. So thank you guys for having me, Chiomah.
Thank you so much, Tara. I think that last one is also answering the question, and also a very vital lesson. We mustn't shy away from speaking about our faith. I have no apologies for speaking about what I believe and what has worked for me. I'm building a memorial for our children, for them to say, look, this the God that did this. I was almost shouting praise. If I was shouting praise the Lord as you were speaking, I was like, wow, the Lord that did this, he's the same God. The Lord that was with us, the Lord that allowed X, Y, Z to happen, the Lord that made this testimony take place. He's still the same. When they see God in action, he will now go from being the God of my father and the God of my mother to be my God, which is one thing that we need to do for our children, to allow them to understand this God for themselves. As I'm building memorials for them, as I'm praying for them, as I'm praying with them. Because that's one thing I have a lot of, I've been hearing that all week, is that we need to keep on praying for them. We understand what God wants for these children, because he knows them, he made them, he created them, he understands, he gets it totally. When we're still trying to understand, this one, will I ever understand this child? God already has the blueprint. So we need to just plug into him and get it all out from him. Thank you so much, Tara. God bless you. God bless you. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. It's been a great session. And I'm going to hand over to Dr. Megor now, because she's going to do the questions. I promise we're going to answer the questions. We're very conscious of your time. This is your Saturday, and I really feel that you spent this time with us this evening. Just for us to talk, like I said, and see, what have we learned? How can we be better at this thing? Parenting is like Tara said, it's not just a business. It's not like a business. You can say, oh, if you do the 7 sigma rule and you do X, Y, Z, then this will happen in your business. But in children, it's not like that. That's not the way it is. You can be a success in everything in life, and you can fail at raising your children, and that will not be anyone's portion here, by the grace of God in Jesus. And that is our prayer, that we will succeed at the end of the day. We will say, oh, we lived good lives, we fulfilled our destiny, we made it in the workplace, we made it in the marketplace, and we raised outstanding children. That's what we want. We want them to say, wow, look at her, as busy as she was, with all the things she was doing, with all the things he was doing. Her children are outstanding citizens of the world. They will not go and give another man or woman stress in their own family, because they were well raised. They will fulfill their destiny. They will do everything God has called them to do, because they were entrusted in our care. God knows we're capable and we can do that. Is why he gave those children to us. We will not fail. We will get it right. We may make mistakes. We may stumble. But because we're in a community like this, we can talk to each other and say, you know what? This is how I learned. That's why we're here, really, to talk about it and to learn from each other. What can we do better? Our mental health, how can we protect it? Our spouse, how can we be closer to our spouse to make sure that we're doing this as a team? What are the things we can do to raise these children in a way that they themselves will be grateful and look back and say, my mom did a great job, my father was amazing, thank God for them. What will make them say when they stand on their own, no mommy, no daddy, nobody there, and they're on their own, they will make us proud and they will make themselves proud. That's what we're trying to do here. So I'm going to hand over to Dr. Megor. All the panelists, thank you so much. I hope you're still going to be around a bit. Dr. Megor, and I have a public safety announcement, please. COVID is real. Please, let us be careful. I know everybody has gotten back to normal in a way. We're all going to parties and weddings and things. Please be careful. Social distance, disinfect your hands, wear a mask. This thing is real. I know people that have died in last week, you know, I know people I know, people I relate to, those are not strangers to me. So I'm, you know, so it's crazy. So we need to really be careful. And our children, as they see us do these things, they too will be more careful and more responsible. So Megor, can you please help us with the question?
Okay, thank you very much, Chiomah, for the opportunity. Thank you so much. Every single speaker here has just been simply amazing, as we can see from the chat box, and I have learned so much. I would go to, so we've answered about 5 questions. There are 4 that are pending here. I think 3 actually. We've also answered this one. So the first one is, I'm a mom to 3 amazing boys who are 7, 6, and 3. The second is who is 6, nags and whines a lot. He never seems to understand. How do I make him understand better? I'd also like to know how to get my husband more involved too. Okay, I think the second part of that question has been answered. So I'm just going to answer this one, and the other 2 questions I would have Kristin and FLS answer for us. So I think if you were listening all through what everyone was saying as well, you would have gotten some pointers. Our children are different, right? And I have been a victim too, where I just expected that what works for the first will work for the second, and all of that. Referring to right now is a middle child, from what you're saying. And there is something about middle children. There's a book, The Birth Order. I mean, there are certain things you can read to educate yourself on this, right? But I would say pay attention to, one, the personality of that child, what the child needs now, right? And what the child's love language is. You might think, oh, the other ones are fine just because they are, you know, a certain kind of way. They might not need more, just like Tara was describing about her children. But this, your child, may feel like, and because the child's also a middle child, may just feel like, I need to shout to be heard. I need to throw a tantrum to be seen. I need to, you know, whine and just get on someone else for something to happen, right? And it's not something that you may have not done that, you know, purposely over time, but yes, that might have happened. And so you want to find out. Sometimes for me, I find I have my last is a pretty interesting child, and sometimes she starts acting out, right, even in school, and I know that she needs my attention, right? And the things that settle, they are not so much. Sometimes I just take her out as, okay, you are going on a walk. I try to do that, to have individual time for each of my children, right? At least on a weekly basis, to say, okay, like even on a daily basis, it was for short times, but for walks, like, okay, let's go on the walk here, just me and you. And you'd be shocked what that can do, right? For each one of them, they're skipping, they're just so happy. And then you ask questions and they just have, and feel like they have your undivided attention. It gives them that sense of individuality. That they matter adult of the child. But what I would say, just like we have learned today, try to study this child individually. What works for the child, what doesn't work for the child, and how can you actually meet that child's individual needs right now? Where is that child, even developmentally, you know, where is the child now, and what does the child need, right? I hope that helped. So for the next question, my daughter 17 internalizes things a lot. How or what do I do to make her open up and talk? Kristin, please, I'd like you to answer that question.
Okay, yes, I will take that question. And 17 that's an age where they're again coming into their own, and the world, there's just so much going on in the world, and they're figuring out how to manage. And I agree with what you just said, Dr. Megor, that spending time with them, setting up an appointment, I would set up appointments with your daughter to share a meal with her, or on a regular basis. I did this a lot with my younger son over the years because all of the older siblings were off at school, and we would go to lunch and talk and share. And I think if you do plan to have it on a regular basis, that you are setting that time aside just for her, it may give her more of an opportunity to feel comfortable and start conversations with you more as an adult than as a child. So she's making that transition into becoming a woman, you know, and maybe you would meet with her especially like you would one of your friends. So I go and meet my friends for tea. I would consider taking your daughter and meeting her for tea. Let's go have tea together. Let's do this once a month, or let's do this every couple of weeks and sit down. Also, I think it's important that you know, take time to share things that are maybe have been difficult for you or that you've internalized, and talk about how you have, you know, maybe you shared something you internalized with a friend or a family member and how they helped you to work through a situation, so that she doesn't feel like she's the only one internalizing these things. And lastly, encourage her to meet up with some of her friends and to start building her own network of friends that she can talk about difficult issues with and share, people that she trusts. So kind of a little bit of a transition as she's moving from childhood into a womanhood, as she's moving from finding, you know, being, you know, told what the systems are and following the rules, into now you're a woman and you're starting to see things and follow rules more in the adult world. How do you use your friends in your network as you move forward to help you with big decisions, or excuse me, or things that you would internalize? So meeting with her, enjoying time with her, sharing experiences that maybe you have, and also encouraging her to find her network of friends that she trusts.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kristin. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah. And then finally, FLS, I'd like to leave this with you. And I think you already said something, you know, that helps, is that's one of the ways you can train up kids well as a single parent. And I remember you saying it from the last parenting conference that we did, which is surrounding your child with positive role models, right? So if you're a single mom, for example, you want to find men who you can surround, who are good role models that can model the right way for your son, you know, and vice versa. But please just take that question and dive in a bit more.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I tend to harp a lot on that because I've seen the magic of that. If there's a if you allow me to use that, I've seen the magic of that in different areas. First, with my life, I'm sure Chiomah is aware. I lost my dad when I was just 13, and the way my life was headed, especially because of where I grew up, if things had continued that way, I probably would have been a Megor robber today. You know, I would have been so successful as being a robber that the federal government would probably have my name on the most wanted list in Nigeria. I was a horrible 13-year-old, but you know, just having the right model, just having a mother, and that's the second thing. I'll come to the mother later, but just having the right model, someone who says, you know what, I see you, and someone that is not doing badly, but says, you know what, you matter, and someone who says, you are important. I hear you, I see you, matters a lot. And I say that for the boy child because, like I said, I've seen this. I just give an example of myself, but I've seen this around as well. You know, I mean, in the US, you do things like Big Brother. You do things like mentoring and all that for people who do not even know you, who would rather do that. And you see kids, I'm not saying nothing works 100%, don't get me wrong, but these are things I have seen work, and I think it's important to do that. So look for people that have, and you can't have it in just one person, different areas. If there's a man that's successful in this area, let them be whatever. But more importantly, don't outsource. Once you expose them, when they come back, and that's one thing my mom did also that helped. My mom was in tune. She spoke. If she was going through a tough time, she spoke about it. She let you know that you are important in the family. She wasn't treating us like we were useless children, or we were, even when we were acting out, she wasn't looking at the act, she was looking at the children. Each time she went through our misbehavior and spoke to us. The first time, I don't know if I should put myself out this way, something happened when I was much younger that broke me down. I was hardened at 13. And for you to know how bad it was, I had classmates who, when we were in primary criminal, I wasn't joking. You know, I had classmates in primary school who ended up being robbers, and I had classmates in primary school who ended up going to full-time prostitution. So it that bad. It was that bad. But one thing my mom did was I stole something from her when I was just after my father died. I stole the family, and she just broke down for the beating of a lifetime. But she sat down. My mom sat on the floor and wept her eyes out. And she said, you know what? You are my future. You are the tomorrow that I have. If you go wrong, everything goes wrong in my life. And you know, for the first time, she hit home run in my heart. I broke down. I was hardened by my exposure and all that. I broke down. And I made her a promise, which I'm still keeping to date. I will make you happy every single day of my life. And that propelled me. I went through secondary school on scholarship. I went through university on scholarship. I did my master's on scholarship. Every single day, what I do is, this woman, I need to make you happy. You know, so as parents, if you're a woman, speak to your child, not the situation, to your child. And they hear. Sometimes I misbehaved a lot even within that period, but I heard her. You know, and then there are teachable moments. It's not every day that a child does great stuff, but you just need one moment, one day, or one teachable moment that will spin things around. So, I mean, I don't want to take your time, but I think those two things, and like I said, I've seen them happen in different ways. When I talk to people, and I say, there are exercises you can do, you know, things you can follow up through and all that, especially, I know usually with women, you know, when you're talking about single parenting, usually, I'm not saying all the time, but usually with women. And I'm saying that, I'm not saying it works 100%, but it works when you do it in a certain way. And I pray for everyone who's going through something like that, that God, who is the father of the fatherless, you know, and the husband of the widow, would come through for you to your children, and you would laugh and smile. I don't know if I answered the question in any reasonable way.
Yes. Thank you so much. I think you did. And thank everyone. I'll hand over to Kristin now to round up.
All right. Well, I mean, we have had some amazing insights today. 2020 is a year that all of us around the world will never forget, I'm sure. And we've shared lessons today about how our actions and who we are as parents mentor our children. We've talked about how we want to move forward and taking those lessons into 2021, how we should focus on knowing our children, the importance of prayer, and considering our children's needs as we move forward into 2021. And I loved a comment that you made, FLS, about your family sitting down to think about what's coming next year and to make a plan for that. And I heard some wisdom the other day that a lot of times we make resolutions for January, and the wisdom was, take January to put your plan together. Discuss what you want to do, maybe as a family or as parents, and how do you want that to look in 2021, and put together a plan with action items so that you can move forward and put some of these things into habit as we move into 2021. And what a pleasure it is to participate in this. I'm so thankful to Chiomah for putting this together and being a part of it. What great wisdom from all of the speakers today. And please, everybody, stay healthy. It has been an absolute joy to participate and to learn from this today. So thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of it's evening in Nigeria and it's middle day here where I live in the US. So enjoy your evening, and it has been a pleasure to meet all of the panelists today and participate in this great parenting lessons from 2020. Thank you.
All right.
And good evening.
Thank you. All right. Good evening. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.